the phone with Coach Edwards, and he convinced me to come out and take a visit. I was amazed that my mother actually agreed to let me do this. We didn't have a whole lot of money, and that was a big, that was a big trip for us to go to, or for me at least. I went by myself just to go to St. Louis, and I just knew as soon as I got done with that visit over a night or two, one night staying in the Beta House, I'm sure that helped overnight. But the campus was just fabulous. The School of Engineering was fabulous. I just felt like it was going to be the right place for me, and pretty much knew that's where I was going to be as soon as I got home. And as Coach Edwards said, showed up that fall, had 4 great years playing basketball. Mostly good times, some bad times as you would expect. But it was really great, growing with a great bunch of guys. Still in touch with a few of them, even after all these years. And then after graduation, I moved out here to Maryland. As Coach Edwards said, I've been at the Applied Physics Laboratory since 1988 as an engineer working on missile systems for the U.S. Navy, working my way up through various positions. And currently I'm a chief engineer for one of our missile programs here. I've stayed in touch with the program over the years. I still had family in Pittsburgh. My wife's from Pittsburgh as well. My daughter actually went to college there. And so just about every year, I can't say every year, but just about every year, we would take a trip up there when the team was up there playing Carnegie Mellon, visit with Coach Edwards and the assistant coaches, and Rick Larson, rest in peace. And just stay in touch with the program over the years. And here we are. Coach Edwards looks the same now as he looks the last time I saw him. And it's been, I can't believe it's been that long, over 30 years, but I guess time flies.
So Coach, you want to open it up to letting the guys ask a little bit about his professional journey?
Why don't you introduce the other two, Coach, and then we'll go from there.
Next one came along in 1993, was it, Tim? 1993, he transferred to Washington University from Purdue. And he and I actually talked when he was in high school. And he gave serious consideration to coming to Washington University, but he had an opportunity to go to Purdue in a guaranteed spot on the team. And he elected to do that. He had a great experience at Purdue. They had some very good teams. And he was a guy that was the enthusiastic guy on the bench. Anybody that watched Purdue in those era, they'd see him jumping up and down and running down the bench and giving fives to everybody and getting the crowd going. And whenever they had an opportunity, the crowd would start chanting for him to get in the ball game. But there was something missing. And he wanted to, he was contributing, but he wanted to contribute on the court. He was an engineering student. He got back in touch with me. He decided to come to Washington University, and he was on another one of our great teams that we had that in that 95, 96 era that came very close to a national championship. Since then, Tim has gone on into the motivational world. I think Coach sent out a little resume of what the things and the companies that he has worked for. But he's always been a very special part of our program. And as we've moved forward, Tim has always stayed in touch with not only the coaches, but with the players that we have. And you probably saw him down at Emory last year, or the last time you played there. He's been to our games. Let's see, where were you before him? You're up in Minnesota, weren't you?
Yeah, Chicago. We were in Chicago for a few years as well, yeah.
So anyway, he's always been a part of our family. And he's going to tell you a little bit about his story. Moving on to Troy. Troy came up to Washington University, never having heard of the school. He was a great student, as everybody knows. He was a very good basketball player, although I must preface it the fact that every time we went to watch him, they stuck a zone on him and collapsed 4 people on top of him because they couldn't stop him. Nobody could stop him inside. He came to WashU on his visit, hit it off, saw what he was looking for, and came and made his mark in the 4 years he was there, not just in basketball, He was also named the most outstanding student in the School of Computer Science. Graduated, went off on got his PhD down at Rice. He was also went to the Young Nobel Laureates over in Switzerland. He was selected to represent the United States, where they had a conclave of Nobel Prize winners, where they spent a week, was it, Troy, or something like that?
Yeah, it's one of the best weeks of my life. We spent a week hanging out with Nobel laureates and other graduate students in basically the border of Germany and Switzerland, and it was like one of the most eye-opening weeks for me, just being able to talk to those Nobel laureates and also the other graduate students. But I'm impressed you remember that, Coach.
Well, you know, that to me was one of the things that really epitomized what this team and what the players were all about. You know, Paul Jackson designing missiles, you going and getting your PhD in being he's one of the pioneers, by the way, in data mining, in case you don't know that. And if you want to see about his company and some of the innovative business techniques that he has, just Google it. What is the name of your company, Troy?
Petra AI now. Started as Roots AI, now it's Petra AI.
Anyway, you can find out about that in some of the things that he has done. And Tim has written a book, his motivation of helping people to succeed. So I couldn't be prouder of these three guys. And I think they not only represent the eras of our program, but they also represent what the possibilities are for all of you. And I'm going to turn it over to all you guys and let you ask them some questions about their trip and their journey through since graduation or while they were at WashU, whatever would help you.
Coach, I'm really impressed with those introductions. The things that you guys may not realize is he could probably do that for like 100 or so people, 150 people. I mean, he's got such a strong connection with so many people, which, I mean, I think for me was a huge thing, you know, at WashU to be part of that family and to be connected with the bigger alumni that was there. And Coach Edwards always did a great job of that. And Coach Pat, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to, you know, be on here and connect with the team too.
Let me just start off with sort of a general question, and I think stimulate some conversation amongst you guys, and then I'm sure our players will jump in with some questions behind. But just a kind of a broad question first, guys. You know, each of you, again, it's been terrific to dig in and read about your accomplishments, what you guys have each done post-graduation and just some really interesting and accomplished fields. What would you attribute, you know, what factors have attributed to, you know, the successes you've had in say your careers and your trajectory? You know, what can you point to as some key things that have helped you along your way, or maybe enlightenments you experienced, or things you could pass on to our guys as they think about, you know, again, their lives beyond WashU?
I would say for me, I mean, I work in an engineering organization, and I've always told our younger staff that the key is to produce. I mean, you have to work hard. You have to have an understanding of what you're supposed to be doing. If you don't understand what you're supposed to be doing, you need to talk to somebody and find out. And you need to work hard, and you need to produce product, and then you move on to the next project, and you'll learn as you go. I mean, you're going to learn a lot as you progress through your career. And that's another thing I would recommend is always look for improvement, some way that you can help improve your value to your organization as you progress. Whether that's, you know, going for a graduate degree. I mean, you just heard Troy going all the way to a PhD. I got my master's degree going to school part-time at night pretty soon after I started working. You can learn more about your field. You can improve within your organization the specific skill sets that they want. I would just say continue to look for opportunities to improve and increase your value to the organizations that you're working with, that you're working in.
I guess if we go in age order here, I guess that puts me next, and I'll probably echo some of the things that Paul said. I still remember taking my last final at WashU. I remember walking out of the building, and I was thinking, I'm done. Like, I could not have been more wrong. Like, that was maybe the dumbest thing I've ever thought in my life, because the truth is I was just beginning. And so I think, and this is probably not something that you want to hear, but when you finish your degree at WashU, the education is about to ramp up. And I think the more that you can embrace that, I realize it's not that fun of a thought, but at the same time, that continuous learning mindset to say, I would say I'm an electrical engineering graduate. I went in the library like 3 times ever in the history of my time at WashU. And yet I will say, just, the amount that I have read as opposed to doing problem sets, the amount that I have read since I graduated has been a huge thing, just to remind me that the learning process never ends. So to the extent that you can go ahead and begin to embrace that now, and by the way, you'll learn stuff in all kinds of different ways, not necessarily the traditional ways, but if you have those antennas up all the time around learning, it's really going to serve you well. And I'm thankful that I came from a family that really valued education. I think that's part of why I was able to continue on in that mode. And I know it kind of sounds like a cliche, but really, truly, the learning really ramps up when you leave WashU. So I just encourage you to embrace the reality of that.
So I guess I go next then. So I couldn't agree more with what you guys said. And, I was reflecting on this. So we got some homework ahead of time, so we got to think about it. I was reflecting on this, and first off, I am so sorry for COVID and what you guys have gone through. I mean, the whole team. Like, first off, thank you for continuing the winning tradition at WashU and putting all that hard work in. That means a lot to us alumni. And I am so sorry for what happened, with COVID and sort of canceling the season. But what I was thinking about, you guys are entering into the next season, you're preseason ranked, people are looking at you, and that happened to me. So we finished my junior year and we lost in the first round of the Final Four. So we lost in the Final Four, and we played the unceremonious game the next day for 3rd place, right? Like, it's like, why are you even making us play? But, when we started that next year, we were preseason ranked number 1. And both Sean and I were preseason All-Americans. And coach told us, it's like, hey guys, you don't know what it's going to be like now. Because actually, when I was looking at WashU was ranked number 1. And so coach had ranked number 1 teams, frequently throughout his career. And so when you're number 1, people bring it to you. And he told us, you got to learn to play with a target on your back. And so what I found out that meant was, most people are not rooting for you. So once you leave college, no one cares about you. No one cares if you're successful. Just like when you play basketball and you're number 1, everyone is rooting against you. No one wants the number 1 team to win, okay? So what you have to learn to do is you have to have multiple paths to victory at all times. You need to maintain as many ways to win as possible. And I think for me, as a leading scorer on the team, what that meant was there's a lot of games where I maybe didn't need to be the leading scorer for us to win. Like, maybe I need to go get a rebound, or maybe I need to defend someone to win. And the more times I could put myself in a situation where I had multiple ways to help the team win, and all my teammates could do that too, we had a better chance of winning. Because, man, people brought it to you. Like, they would shoot better against you. They would run harder against you. They would foul you harder. They would tackle you. I mean, they hated you. They really hated you. And guess what? When you go work, people are going to hate you too. Like, people will want the job that you have. People will want to outwork you. People will want to kick your ass. And so I think having this mentality of knowing you're number 1 and then giving yourselves as many ways to win as you always can. And I think what that breaks down to is you really got to prepare. You got to be prepared for the different situations that might occur, and you need to be able to handle them. You need to be, mentally in tune with the challenges that may come up in your way to like winning a championship for basketball. But in your job, you don't know. Maybe someone's looking for you to be the hardest worker. Maybe someone's looking for you to have a good idea. Maybe someone's looking for you to, help facilitate something. But just having always watching for how do I win, and then how do I execute to win in that kind of situation, I think is something I learned my senior year and really helped us. It was something we had to evolve to, because like halfway through this, a couple games in, Sean was out. Like our preseason All-American point guard was out, and we're like, holy smokes, we got to completely revamp this offense like overnight. And we didn't. It took us lots of games. We lost so many games, like just because we were trying to find a new way to win. And I think Coach Edwards did a great job helping the team see that. But you have to do that personally too. You have to take that personal challenge on.
Awesome. There's a lot there in those words and those answers. I'm gonna open it up to our guys, to our players, who are the smartest guys on the screen, other than the alumni, and have great questions. So I'm gonna open up, guys, to you for questions you have for our alums. And again, just quickly introduce yourself. Your first question.
What's up, guys? My name is Charlie. I'm a junior. I'm from Minnesota. I'm studying finance here. I have a question for Tim. So I know that you've made your career out of studying leadership, and so I was wondering if you could highlight some of the commonalities that you've seen and the best leaders that you've studied, and also if you could weigh in on like the nature versus nurture debate with leaders, because I know I saw something about the who versus what, and so I was just curious on your take with regarding that.
Man, Charlie, good preparation. That's impressive. Very, very good. There's two things. I was involved in some research around leadership about 15 years ago, and there's two things that I would share with you guys at this stage in life that applies for the rest of your life, that cause people to want to follow you. And those two things are: you inwardly sound, and are you others focused? So are you a stable person who can take a punch and keep on going? Do you do the inner work so that things don't throw you off? And then as a leader, are you showing up for the sake of the people that you're leading? The leaders who are showing up for their own bank accounts and for their own egos, those are not the leaders that we want to run through a wall for, not over the long haul. We might do it for a few years to get some good experience. But in the whole of time, in the longer road, the inwardly sound and others focused leaders, statistically speaking, are the ones that get the most out of the people that follow them. And you're not going to be surprised, when you have really engaged followers, you get better results. So, this is not rocket science, but unfortunately not enough people are talking about how important it is to use the word that you used there, Charlie. Who you are really matters as to whether or not somebody wants to follow you. Regarding nature versus nurture, I think that there are people that do have an inherent level of leadership in them. They have a gifting in that. But I also believe that every single one of us, regardless of where we fall on that natural scale, has the opportunity to get better. You know that every single player in the world has a coach. I mean, literally every single professional athlete you can think of has a coach. And, whether you're an MJ guy or a LeBron guy, they both have coaches. They both have people who are helping them to get better. And so in the end, I think it's a combination of the two. You may have some more inherent abilities around leadership, but no matter where you fall on that scale, you can always get better. So I'll end with the other thing: inwardly sound and others focused. And by the way, it takes a lot of hard work over a long time to truly be those two things. You don't wake up inwardly sound and others focused when you're 6 years old. So I really encourage investment in those two areas, because that's who people want to follow.
Sweet, thank you.
I also have a question for you, Tim. I was wondering what led you to found the Apereo. Is that how you say it?
Yep.
See, like you majored in electrical engineering and economics minor, so I'm just kind of wondering what like road you went down to lead you to want to write your book or found that company.
Yeah, thanks. Well, electrical engineering obviously is a great road to leadership development, right? No, I mean, I never imagined when I was in school that I would be doing the kind of work that I'm doing now. But the fact of the matter is, this research that I just mentioned, I was in a consulting organization, and then I was in-house as a leadership development manager for a company, and there are always limitations on what I could say. There were politics. There were, in an organization where I was leadership development manager, there were lots of people who would listen to me and engage in the work that we needed to do, but not necessarily the very top leaders in the company. That was out of bounds. And so the reason that I founded the company, I tell people all the time, I'm a very reluctant entrepreneur. Unlike, I think Troy Roos might be the ultimate entrepreneur, but I was a reluctant entrepreneur. I never had a lemonade stand as a kid. The only reason I started this company is because I had a passion to talk about the truth of this leadership. And I didn't want to hit the age of 50. Not that that's old for anybody on the call that might be above that. And I'm real close at this point. So I got to say that that's not old, really close. But I didn't want to hit 50 and not have gotten myself into a place where I could speak what I was passionate about. And so by starting my own company, then I could go in and I could just defend people like crazy and not worry about it because I wasn't going to lose my job. I was just going to share with people, here's what the data says. And if that's offensive to you, then you probably shouldn't hire me. If you're interested in that, then let's keep talking. So I didn't have a big dream for a company or anything like that. I just wanted to speak what I was passionate about. And the only way I could think to do that was to start my own company. Thanks, Jabari.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question.
I'm Max. Where are you from, man?
My bad. Come again?
Where are you from?
Chicago.
Ah, nice. Chi-town. Okay. Sorry, Matthew.
Okay. I have a question for Troy. I'm Matt. I'm from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm a sophomore and I'm majoring in psych. I have a question for Troy. So I just want to know, I know you guys were all on great teams, but I just want to know like your experience on the team under Coach Edwards and just kind of what factors led you guys to being so good and having a winning culture.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard question. I think it's hard because, the culture we had was the water we were swimming in. So if you ask a fish to describe its water, it's sort of hard for it to do that, right? But I will tell you that I think what made a big difference for us was the team chemistry that we're able to develop. My first 2 years, freshman and sophomore year, this is sort of a funny story. So I'm a really angry guy, like, especially in college. You may not get it, but you could get me really fired up. So we had a really shitty game. I mean, just shitty game. And this was my freshman year. And we had some seniors that, they just come down, they'd shoot, and they wouldn't run the offense. And it was just really pissing me off. So like at halftime, the senior was like, we just need to keep shooting. And so I get so angry. I flip the desk over. I'm a freshman at this time who's not even starting. So it's like, oh, shut up, Troy. But I didn't realize that because I was just so angry. And so I storm out of the room trying to make a point. And I ran straight into Coach Edwards. And he's like, where are you going? And I was like, oh, I don't know where I'm going. He's like, get back in there. So it wasn't like that summer season Coach would have the sit downs. And he was like, we had the whole talk. And then he got me, he's like, well, what do you want out of this program, Troy? And I took a second. I thought really deeply. I was like, Coach, I want to win a national championship. And he leans back and he pets his chin a little bit. And he's like, what do you think I've been trying to do this whole time? And I think to get to your question, I think we're all when you're in a program, everyone's got to want it. And Coach was basically saying, well, yes, obviously that's why you're here. You know, like, I'm glad you finally woke up and you stopped storming out of the rooms. You have to make yourself part of the solution. And I think that's what I realized, you know, that Coach helped me see is it's not enough for you just to feel really excited about it, or to you to get angry about it, or for you to really want to push it. You really need to get everyone on the team, you know, to that level of enthusiasm about it. Until you have the entire team getting so frustrated, wanting to flip over desks together and walk out together, then you're always going to be trying to pull someone along. And so I think my junior and senior year, we had a team that everyone was contributing and being part of the solution. And, you know, that to me, that was really important, because throughout my time, we had all sorts of things that happened. And there were some games. So like my senior year, we were down by like 16 points to a really bad team, and we shouldn't have been. It was like Buena Vista, right, Coach? And like, we came after half and we ended up beating them. But it was only because we were all part of the solution. So I guess it just, you know, you need to get everyone marching in the same direction and getting excited about it. And then everyone willing and committed 100% to be part of the solution. And that solution is to win the national championship. So whatever it takes to get there, we'll do it, you know, kind of thing. So in a game, you need me to jump on the ground and get the ball, I'll do it. You need me to take a charge, I'll do it. You need me to go get this rebound, I'll do it. Or Tyler, I need you to do this. Or Sean, I need you to do this, right? So to me, I think that's a big part of it. And if you break that down, you have to understand what different team members can provide as part of that solution. So what can they do, and what can you do, and how can you start bringing more to the table? And then how can you use your teammates more and help them be more effective, right? So I think you see this a lot with trends in some really good players in the NBA. So there's a difference between an all-star and being a superstar. And a superstar is someone who can always get their team involved, so that they can win through assists or they can win through points. And I think when you sort of need a team of superstars who can help you win. Like, they can help you, they can win with an assist, they can win with a shot, right? That is a very dangerous team, like, to play, because you don't know if that person's going to take the shot or he's going to pass it to the person who's going to take the shot. That's how you win, I think, consistently, is when you know the threats that everyone poses and everyone can work together to be part of the solution each play down, whether that's offensive or defense. So that's sort of what I took from, you know, my experience. It might have been long-winded, but.
You know, if I could elaborate a little bit for these three guys that you're looking at are three of the biggest competitors I've ever had in the program. No doubt about it. I can tell you a story about each and every one of them, of how they go, oh, you'd look at it and you say, wow. You know, Tim Spiker diving to knock a steal away at Chicago that ends up in a layup at the other end of the floor and a win. Right, Tim? Remember that? Troy scoring the last 5 points at Case Western. When we were behind, if we had lost that game, we weren't going to the NCAA and never would have won the championship. Paul Jackson, having to compete with two other guys that were older than him and who had been playing that position. And he competed day in and day out. And then when they got into the games, he was the winner. He'd come up with a big steal out at the wing, I don't know how many times, that led to a layup at the other end of the floor. So when they talk about the key is, all three of these guys are competitors. And if you look in your locker room, look up over the back of the lockers. What does it say? Does anybody know? Well, the next time you were in there, look at it. Because those words were the words that I put up there because of these three guys and guys like them.
I appreciate that, Coach. I'd also say, like, when you are very competitive, it makes, like, you will have a lot of friction with your teammates. Like, expect to get angry at each other. Expect to be disappointed with people's effort. Expect to push each other really hard. Expect to feel bad if you're the one who messed up. Like, it's harder. It's not easy to, like, push that. It's a very uncomfortable, you're at the edge of the team's comfort zone. And that's how you know you're in the right spot, right? Like, it's not an easy thing. if it's easy, you're probably doing it wrong. That's the other thing I'd say. Like, if you think it's like going well, yeah, you're going to lose. You're not on your game enough. You know, that's the way I felt.
Thanks, guys.
So I'll jump in here next. Hi guys, I'm David Winley. I'm from Nashville, Tennessee, studying finance and accounting here at here in the Olin Business School. This is kind of a general question for all three, but I think for a lot of college kids who are recruiting for their first job, there are a lot of different ways it can be a little bit intimidating. There are a lot of factors at play, like location, maybe company prestige, starting salary, etc. Kind of looking back on it in hindsight, like what are some of those factors that maybe you wish you would not have considered so heavily, and what are some that maybe you wish you would have considered more?
Speaking for me, I've been in the same organization since I graduated. So obviously I don't have any regrets, or at least not any, regrets that were large enough that would have made me want to move on. In fact, I've been sitting in the same office now for like 30 years. I actually joke with my boss that if he ever wants to rearrange offices or we have to move, he's going to have to bring like an army of people to pull me out of there, because I want to set the record for longest time in the same space. For me, it was coming from the engineering background, I got hooked on the kind of work that my organization was doing. I interviewed with a couple of different groups working in different types of projects, different technical areas, and just like with coming to Washington University, where I told you before, I knew it was the place for me. Same thing going on the visit to the company, meeting the people, trying to get a feel for what they do. It was the exact same thing for me. I just knew, I said, this is the place for me, at least for starting out my career. It was perfect from a location standpoint. Again, I'm from the East Coast, so I wasn't too far from family. And it seemed like just a perfect place for me. And I can't say I've had any regrets since then. So I hope all of you find the same experience. Not likely that all of you will, but maybe some of you will.
I think the way that I would answer that question would just be to say, I'm doing leadership. I had an engineering degree. I got my MBA from WashU as well after, a few years of working. And I worked in personal finance first, coming out of, the first job that I really think of as my main job. And even I remember doing some work in that job, Troy, with Andrea and Larry Hugater. Now, this is a total side comment, but Andrea was a professor in the School of Engineering, and I was her favorite student ever until Troy Roos came along, and then she didn't like me as much anymore. But I think this is more true today than it was even then, way back when I graduated. But the first direction you go, the first job that you take, the first industry you go into, it's very likely not going to be the last one. And the idea of being open to taking steps that may not line up exactly with the perfect job that you're imagining, I think that's okay. I think it's okay to take a job and say, I'm going to learn as much from this job and this organization and my leaders as I can. And when I look at it, gosh, I can't imagine myself being there for the next 30 years or the next 20 years or the next 5 years. But at least I can say yes to this now. I'm going to give it my all as I get started. I think just to be open to the fact that your path might change many times. I am absolutely passionate about leadership, but I don't even think I could spell the word leadership until I was 29. It didn't really land on me as something that I wanted to spend my time on until I was, kind of well into starting my career as an adult. So I think what I would say about that is just be open. It's okay not to pick the perfect job coming out of the gate. It's okay if something doesn't work out and you want to go another direction. Keep track of what you're learning. Just keep track of what you're learning.
Yeah, Tim, I think that's really what I see. A lot of people leave college, they put a lot of pressure on themselves to get it right. And then they get really down. And then, your 20s, I think it's all about gathering information. So there's this great book, The Lean Startup, quick read. It's by Eric Ries. But when you're in startup mode, the whole point isn't to get money. It isn't necessarily to make a product. It's to get information about the product you want to make. So I think right out of college, I would think about what's the most important information I need to pick my career eventually. Because college these days is very general. It's really hard to see what it's like in the real world. So you don't really have enough information. That's the problem. Is like that decision's hard because you don't have enough information. Decisions become easy once you have information. So just make decisions that help you get information. And if you're getting information, you're heading in the right direction, because at some point you can pick, based on all that information you've gathered, what you should go into. So I think there's plenty of time as long as you keep gathering information on it.
So if it doesn't work out like Paul, it's okay. It's okay if it doesn't.
We can't all hit it like Paul every time.
We can't all be as great as Paul Jackson.
That's the real championship.
Yeah.
Hey, Paul, I moved around a lot too, so don't worry about it.
I did have one random thought that I just wanted to add to that championship question, or the team question, Matt. It's signature wins. And you guys had that last season, but you need signature in everything you do. You need signature wins. But like, to build a good team, to do all those things, to get people to believe in what you're doing, you need a signature win. You need to show someone that you can beat someone really good. And I think you guys did that, and that's why you're going to be, your preseason ranked. But you got to keep doing that, So it's something a little bit more concrete than like obtuse being competitive. Just go figure out how to get a signature win, and then go get another one, and then go get another one. If you keep doing that, you win the championship.
Hey guys, I'm Colby. I'm a freshman majoring in mechanical engineering. I'm from Lincoln, Nebraska. I kind of have a broad question too. So my question is, what advice do you guys have for maybe some of us younger guys of things maybe you wish you would have known, or maybe some regret you had that you wish you would have done more of this or less of this? And it can be academic wise, or it can be basketball wise. Kind of take it whichever way you want.
I would say, I'm going to answer this from a basketball standpoint, because this is something that I've actually thought about for a long time, and really hit me pretty soon after I graduated. And that was, you got to think about why are you playing basketball, right? I mean, we're Division III basketball. It's not a career for 99% of the players that come through the program. I think there's maybe been one or two that maybe played over in Europe. So why are you playing? Are you playing because it's fun, it's something to do? Are you playing because you like to compete? Are you playing because you're trying to do the best that you can at something, be the best that you can be? And so you really need to think about why you're playing. And obviously, playing at WashU, it's a very successful program, high expectations. There's a lot of competition, I'm sure, within the team. A lot of great players have come through. And so one of the things that I've always regretted is that I don't think that I really got as much out of I think I could have been a better basketball player coming through after 4 years. Certainly, coming out of high school, I really had no idea what I was getting into that summer after my senior year in high school and showing up on campus. And I just got completely waxed. That first fall, that first semester of my freshman year, I was just getting killed out there, because I had pretty much taken the summer off. I probably played a couple pickup games here and there, and I was just getting crushed. The next summer, I probably did a little better, but still, it wasn't really till the summer after my sophomore year that I really started taking it as seriously as I really wanted to. And that was with a 40-hour-a-week summer job, but still going to the gym every night after that, putting in the time, putting in the work. And I just really regret thinking, like, man, how much better could I have been if I put in that much effort those first 2 years? How much better could I have been, and how much better the team could have been had I been able to contribute more? So, I mean, if you guys are all in it, I'm sure you're at WashU, you're looking for big successes as a team, and you really need to put in the individual work for 4 years and think about how you can improve on the court and help improve your team as well. I can't really stress that enough. You know, you don't want to finish 4 years thinking, man, I really wish I would have worked on my free throws more. I wish I could have done better at this, or I wish I could have done better at that. Yeah, you can always do better, but you don't want to regret saying, oh, I didn't put in the effort. That would be my advice.
Mine is actually pretty similar. Actually, before I say that, Colby, congratulations on going undefeated in your freshman year. That's quite an accomplishment. Just want to acknowledge that. You know, I'm going to go with basketball as well, and I'm just going to, you know, Paul said it a number of times, the summer. The summer is such an opportunity, and it's not that I didn't work on my game in the summer, but I look back on it, I'm like, I could have done more. I could have done more. I could have sat down at the beginning of the summer and said, here's what I'm going to do. And here's the other thing. I mean, you guys know that basketball is developing you as men, not just as athletes. When you sit down and say, here's what I'm going to do, and then you do it, like that counts for something. Having a discipline, you're going to need discipline for your whole life. Sorry, I know that's maybe disappointing news, but you are going to need discipline your whole life. And so it's not just basketball that you're working on. When you set aside and say, hey, I'm going to do this 6 days a week or 7 days a week or whatever it might be, as you say, here's what I'm going to do during the summer. But looking back, I wish that I had done more than I did in the summer. It's just such an opportunity. You know, the championships are won in the summer. I think. I think that's true for championship teams. And I look back, I wish that I had done some more in the summertime.
Yeah, I think on the basketball side, I think focus skill work. So figure out the skills you want to develop, very focused skill work, like when you go to the gym. Don't just shoot around. Don't just play pickup. In fact, stay away from playing pickup. Stay away from just shooting around. Only do focused skill work. And the other thing is agility drills. Do not get really good footwork. So one thing I think in D3, the skill work's really good, but what I found is footwork wasn't always very strong. And so some of the toughest workouts are like agility footwork workouts, and you got to get yourself to the next level with that. If you have good agility, and if you do your time in the weight room, like with basketball, it's important to do weights, but it's not the most important thing. I mean, agility drills, like as many agility drills as you can do. Like in basketball, you don't need to jump very high, but you need to move very quickly. And that's gonna help you do a lot of stuff. So like quickness is, I think, the name of the game these days. And so, man, and agility drills are the worst, the absolute worst. On the professional side, internships. Do internships. And if you can, get to know a professor and work with them some way, either in their lab, so you can get a good letter of recommendation. So finish college with a killer letter of recommendation, like someone that would jump on a grenade for you or write a letter like that. If you get a great letter of recommendation, that's going to help you with a lot of interviews and the interview process.
One little basketball story I add in that I just thought of. Some of you guys might know who Konzo Martin is. He's the head coach at Mizzou right now. He was my teammate at Purdue. After his sophomore year, he was 0 for 7 in his career from 3. And he finished the all-time leading three-point scorer in Purdue history. He did that in the summer. Back to my theme there. Now, Carson Edwards comes along and a bunch of other guys, and he's no longer in that top spot. But he was a self-made three-point shooter because he put the time in when other people weren't willing to do it. So just as a more tangible example of that, I hold up Zoe as an example because he did the work.
I just want to emphasize what Troy said, because I think he made a great point that, you know, when you are trying to improve, you need to be trying to improve specific aspects of your game. You know, in retrospect, I can certainly see that that's not something that I did as well as I probably could have. And I'd certainly recommend, I'm sure you're working with your coaches now, getting some idea of, hey, what should I do over the summer? What do I need to improve skill set wise, physical wise, whatever it may be, and focus on those things, because you can certainly spend a lot of time in the gym and or on the playground and not be getting a whole lot out of it. That's for sure.
That was a good question, Colby. I'll take one here. I'm Justin. I'm from Chicago. I'm accounting and finance major. Tim, quick one for you here before I go into the real one. How many college coaches did you play with there at Purdue? Darner, Painter, Martin?
Yeah, it's actually crazy because I was thinking about our huddle there. So you mentioned Link Darner and Matt Painter, of course. Gene Cady, and then Bruce Weber, who's the current head coach at Kansas State, and Conzo Martin. Alan Major, who was our manager, he was with Thad Matta's staff at Ohio State. He went on to be the head coach at Charlotte. So we had a manager at the end of the bench who ended up being, and oh, by the way, we also had Glenn Robinson, the #1 pick taken in the 1996 NBA draft. So here's a small fact. I left Purdue, and they won 3 Big Ten championships in a row. So I'm hoping that there's not a connection, but I can't deny the statistics of that. So it's insane the number of Division I head coaches. You would have thought we should have been better than we were, but we had a bunch of Division I head coaches in that huddle.
That's funny. That feels bad. That's how Peyton and Jack are going to feel when they leave next year, and we win 3 in a row. But so my real question, kind of Colby talked about like what you want to know as a freshman. I'm a junior, so my time here is, coming to a close sooner rather than later. What are some of the things that you see people like starting out in their industries struggling with most? And, it could be something industry specific or something just in general, but, we all kind of have blind spots, as we get started in something that we're new to. But what do you kind of see consistently young people struggle with?
Well, I think so. There's some irony in what I shared earlier around the leadership research, which is be inwardly sound and others focused. And I think, when you're early in your career, there's no doubt that you're going to be building your technical skills. There are going to be things but if you're in a technical field, and I think I bet Paul could speak to this as well, it doesn't take that long before what you learned in school is obsolete. Those things are going to fade away. And so back to that, you've got to be a lifetime learner. But here's the other aspect of it. If you're interested in leading something, the crazy part of the research I've gotten to be a part of is you don't actually have to have any followers to work on what accounts for 77% of leadership. Today, whether you have anybody following you or not, you can work on becoming more inwardly sound. You can work on becoming more self-aware, more secure, more principled. You can work on those things right now. On the others focused side of things, being others focused, I can work on being more curious and more attentive and more humble and more empathic. I can do that now with 0 followers. And that's my message to young people all the time. If you want to prepare for leading, even now, while you're so focused on technical skills, work on becoming more inwardly sound and others focused, because that is what's going to cause somebody to run through a wall for you later on. So you don't have to wait until you get your first appointment as somebody who's leading people. You can work on those things now. And I'll say this, I've said this to Coach previously, but I'll say this to the whole group now. Like, I am available to you. If there's any part of a deeper dive and talking about leadership that you want to do more, I'm so proud to be a part of this program. I care so much about what you guys are doing. I am available to anybody on this call at any time. So, all you got to do is send me a note. And if you want to say, well, okay, what the hell does that actually mean, Tim? We can talk about what the hell that actually means. But working on who you are is not something to wait till later on. Please start that right now, because that's what makes you an effective leader.
Yeah, Justin, I think something that's worked for me, and I don't know if this works for other people, but for me, I always like having a mentor. And I found that my peers that found a mentor early. So like in undergrad, Coach Edwards was definitely my mentor. Like I learned a lot just from him and how he handled problems. I mean, you're learning soft and technical skills from mentors all the time, right? So, and when you leave college, I'd suggest find a mentor as fast as possible that, you want to learn from. Find a couple even. Don't make them your peers. Make them people that have gone through it, who have made some hard decisions, have learned something, that you can absorb from. I think when I find that some young people who like enter in, they try to peer up too much instead of like find mentors and mentor up. So, and it's not like all companies have gimmicky mentor programs. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about real mentorship, where you go form a real relationship with someone and you get them to like you for who you are, and you like them for who they are, and you learn something from them. You know, I can't tell you how important that is for me. I've always had a mentor. I continue to find mentors. Like, I think I want to finish my life with mentors because it just helps in everything. I mean, someone to talk to. So that's something that I see.
Troy, thank you for saying the gimmicky comment. I'm with you like 1,000%.
Yeah,
like
so stupid. Don't trust that corporate bullshit.
Yeah.
Like, go do it yourself. Go find someone you care about, someone you think is cool, who's going to help you run the traps. It's so important. Someone who's looking out for you, who's got your back. Like, it's just, your peers don't have your back, you know, in that kind of situation.
Good time for maybe one more question from our players before we kind of allow the alumni to sort of kind of some final thoughts and wrap up. So is there a final question that anybody has that they'd like to ask of our alums? Terrific questions as always, fellas. Hearing crickets, I'm going to take that as we're good there. So I'm going to throw it kind of a final kind of wrap up with each of you three. And again, thank you again for your sharing. And again, I've got 2 pages of notes written down, and just again the learning that's going on, regardless of our age or experience, is terrific in these. Troy, you already spoke to a little bit in your comments about what made your teams successful or some things. So, you know, Tim and Paul, if you wouldn't mind touching upon that, since both of you played on very successful teams, you know, was there something about that team or that environment that allowed that team to reach the heights it did that you were on? And then just any other final thoughts that you have based on maybe some of a question that I gave you in advance, or just something, a piece of advice you'd like to share with our guys. And so, since it's been the order, we've gone, and we'll Paul, I guess you get to start us off.
Yeah, sure. I'd say, looking back on my experience with the team, first of all, you gotta have talent. That's for sure. Our teams had talent. I saw Troy's teams play in the Final Four for 2 years. Those guys had a lot of talent. There was a lot of skill on those teams. I've seen a lot of other Coach Edwards teams play through the years. You got to work on like I said before, you have to work. There's other guys out there that are working just as hard as you are. From the team perspective, what Troy said about playing for each other, that was certainly the case. On my teams, certainly, it was kind of a weird situation for me because I came in with a group of freshmen, and that team that year, all the starters were all upperclassmen. I think there was probably 3 or 4 senior starters and maybe 1 junior. And so, and it was the freshman players that were coming in off the bench. So it was kind of this kind of weird dichotomy, but it really was a bunch of great guys. And then when that senior class graduated, which I think was Coach Edwards' first senior class, and then the younger guys, the freshmen, and we were sophomores then, really took on bigger roles within the team. And we got along great, for sure. And it was really important that the players on the team, that you're really counting on to carry you sometimes. And I played with an All-American, and I can't remember if John was also an All-American or All-Region as well. But, those guys, they were great players, but they were also great teammates. I mean, they were there for you. They knew that they were playing as part of the team. They weren't playing for themselves. And it really sets the tone when the top players on the team are really setting that tone of being good teammates. That's really important. And I know that I've seen that a lot on a lot of Coach Edwards' teams through the years, especially the ones that were the most successful. I mean, you could really see the guys that were leading the team on the floor were really good teammates and bringing the whole team together and playing as a group. And I bet you can probably go back and look at some of the teams that weren't as successful, and maybe that was a part of it. You know, we had one guy or two guys that weren't getting along. Like Troy said, you know, there's going to be friction, but that doesn't mean you can't be good teammates for each other. And if you're not being good teammates for each other, it's going to be really hard to be successful, no matter how much skill you have.
Gosh, you guys are going to think that Coach put us up to saying answers that align with each other, but he didn't. I mean, because you know what Paul's saying is just truth. You know, as we close out, I'll say one thing that's unrelated to what we're talking about, and I will come back to what Paul said. The greatest travesty I've ever seen in athletics is the fact that somebody would set a screen for Jack Nolan's uncle. I'd pass him the ball in the wing, he'd hit a three, and I'd get an assist out of it. Like that's the most unfair thing I've ever seen in basketball. That was just so easy, and I've seen Jack do that as well for a lot of folks. But in echoing what Paul said, I'm gonna tell you two short stories. I'll keep it short. That I think connect with what Paul was just saying. My senior year, we played a second round game, I think it was, at home, and we narrowly won. We should have won by more than we did. But unfortunately in that game, Jeff Hutz was our starting three. He rolled his ankle very badly. And Jeff's in the locker room. We're after the game. We're going on the road to play Illinois Wesleyan, which, by the way, when you guys beat Illinois Wesleyan, just know that brings joy to my heart, okay? And there's a lot of other guys that feel that way as well. But I go into the locker room well after the game is over. And Hutz was hurt badly. Like he was, and everybody has cleared out, and he's in the shower. And I come into the locker room, and I hear Jeff Hutz bawling his eyes out in the shower while he's getting ready. You have to care that much. You know, if you've got guys on the team that aren't heartbroken at the idea of losing or not being able to contribute, then I encourage you to encourage them to think differently. You know, those are the kind of teammates. I say to this day that hearing Jeff Hutz cry his eyes out in the shower that night because he knew his ankle was wrecked and that there was almost no way that he was going to be able to contribute to Illinois Wesleyan. That is one of the worst noises I've ever heard in my entire life to this day, because that was somebody who was heartbroken over what was coming next. The other short story I'll share with you is about a guy that I didn't play with, but a guy that I watched and a guy that I really admire, and it's one of Troy's teammates, Sean Wallace. He mentioned earlier that Sean got hurt. Sean, I think he tore his ACL. Is that right, Troy? I mean, he was. I can't remember the injury. Was that he tore his
ACL on his knee?
Okay. Broke his leg.
All right, so he broke the whole thing, and he wasn't playing. So it's a little bit strange that one of my favorite memories from WashU basketball has to do with a team that I didn't play on. But when they got to the national championship 2 years later, or not of that year when Sean got hurt, when we first won the national championship, I was watching on TV, of course, and just like, you know, this is it. We finally, you know, we got over the hump the year before and get to the Final Four, and we're going to win it. And we won it going away, and the final horn sounds, and the first guy sprinting onto the court to celebrate is Sean Wallace in street clothes. You got an All-American, a guy who's one of the best players who's ever put on a uniform at WashU, was so for his teammates. And I will never forget watching that. I have such admiration for Sean Wallace because, I mean, he would crush you in a heartbeat. The guy is an unbelievable basketball player. But in the moment when he couldn't be on the floor, I couldn't tell the difference between Sean Wallace celebrating a championship with a uniform on the next year and Sean Wallace celebrating a championship with street clothes on the year before. could tell no difference. And that, to me, is what it's like, to get back to what Paul said. That is a great teammate. So if you're the best player on this team, then the idea is to be about for everybody else. And Sean Wallace, to me, epitomizes that.
That was awesome, Tim. And yeah, I think I don't know. I think I've answered mine, but I guess the only thing I'd tell you guys is, shoot, man, just have fun. Just like really enjoy it. You get to play basketball. You get to like fly around, and man, it's going to be great memories for you for the rest of your life. So don't mess them up. Do a good job with them, because when you're getting older and you're working, you're going to want to remember some like sweet victories and some sweet stories. So just, man, just enjoy it. Like, I bet, like, I'd love to hear, you know, how this COVID season, lack of season, I mean, how you guys are mentally processing that, because I'm sure it's pretty heavy. But, you know, don't let that cloud next season. Like, you know, whatever you do, don't let this funky year mess up next year. Like, just take the momentum that you built and put it forward. And you're always going to have pitfalls, like Tim said, but just really enjoy it. Just be a goldfish, forget it all happened, and then just crush next year, because you guys have the talent. I'm sure you guys have the work ethic, because you had a great season, and I think you guys would have gone far in the tournament. Colby, I'm really worried about you driving, you know, at the same time. So drive safe. But you got, just really, really enjoy it. I think one thing that I did, we actually lost the UAA conference going into the tournament, and heading into that championship, we got an at-large bid. We barely scraped in the year we won a championship. And I was so uptight. I was so uptight because I didn't want to mess up my senior year. Like, I had all this expectation. And then I was just, you know what? I'm just going to enjoy it. I'm just playing basketball. And I'm just going to like kick some motherfucking ass every single time I go on the court. And that's just really enjoy it. And just feel that way every single time you're doing a skills drill, every single time you're getting ready for this next year coming up. Just, I mean, you only get a little bit of time. And just really, really enjoy it. Enjoy it for yourself. Enjoy it for your teammates. And then hopefully you'll be on a call like this one day, telling the next group how you guys crushed it and how you guys did it a little bit differently than we did. And you found your own way to do it. And that's the way it works. So, back to you, Coach.
You know, one last thing for me is, I can't tell you how proud I am of all my players. And these three guys exemplify that. And I think you can see it too. And, you know, one thing I told all three of them over these last 40 years when I recruited them is that I promise you I will only recruit kids who I think you can be comfortable competing with. And it's your responsibility by the time you're a senior to help us recruit the right ones. Because the culture you create, the culture you're in, is going to be the results that you get. And these three guys, I think after tonight, you understand what we're talking about. From the 1980s, the 1990s, and the first decade of the 20s, these guys represent the same thing. I'm proud of you.
Thanks, Coach. Proud to be part of the legacy.
Thanks, Coach.
Yeah, Coach, thank you, and Troy, Tim, and Paul. Really appreciate your sharing tonight, guys. Our current bearers, thank you for your questions, your attentiveness. I think again, just a lot for us to process. And alumni, if you're okay with it, I know a lot of our guys will be interested possibly in following up with you individually. So if you're okay with that, I would share your email address, your contact information. Our guys do a wonderful job of following up. And as you can tell, they're very curious and have layered interests. And again, Tim, you've reached out previously and said your willingness to discuss and share, what your findings in leadership. And I'm going to take you up on that as well, Tim. So personally, but thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it. Coach Edwards, appreciate you sharing the alumni and giving us some background and into their great contributions. So guys, be well. Colby, drive safe, as Troy said, and look forward to getting back together here soon again. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate it.